The self-titled debut posthumous album from the Cheshire-based indie rock group Viola Beach is the album that almost never saw the light of day. For the uninitiated, Viola Beach were a promising up-and-coming rock group that were tipped to be one of the UK's brightest prospects, completely self-funding their first recordings before being given a push by BBC introducing a platform for new musical talent. Things looked very promising for the four-piece band. That is until tragedy struck in February of this year. During the European tour, the group and their manager were involved in a car accident which saw their vehicle plunge off a bridge in Sweden, killing all 5 people. The reaction was one of immense sadness, bringing on a campaign from a number of artists to have their song Swings and Waterslides get into the singles charts, and it did, peaking at number 11. An album did seem very unlikely after nothing happened after this event. That was until mid-June when, on behalf of the band's families, it was announced that a full-length Viola Beach album was to be released at the end of July, and currently is on course to be the #1 album this week. I think reviewing this album was always going to be a rough task concerning the history behind this group, and I know what I'm going to say is quite controversial, but what this album ultimately shows was a group that had only scratched the surface of what could have been a blossoming career. For all the highlights this album produces, one can't help but feel slightly unfulfilled and saddened by the potential that will never be realised. Lyrically, the album is heavily drenched in the late teen to early 20s transition that deals primarily with the themes of young love and youthful excursions. A lot of the lyrics have a certain playfulness and fun to them that, whilst they are rough around the edges, there's this undeniable charm that gives the songs their appeal. Swings and Waterslides strikes up the image of a summertime romance, throwing a bit of beach party fun and a couple of smokes. It's simple but sweet. Go Outside embraces the idea of dropping everyday life's mundanity, go out, drink and spend the night enjoying oneself and have a good time. And Get to Dancing also follows suit, with our lead yearning to have a good time with whoever takes his fantasy. The final track, Boys That Sing, sees our lead listing off a bunch of things about a girl he's infatuated with, some flattering, some not so flattering, but in the end the guy's head over heels for her. On the rare occasions, the lyrics can veer off into smarmy territory that doesn't necessarily flatter the album. Drunk sees our lead taking on this role of some paranoid guy who's only really interested in getting his woman home, getting obliterated on alcohol and screwing her. Personally, this comes off a bit tactless. Plus, you get the tracks that do cause some eye rolling to occur, most notably the tracks Cherry Vimto and Call You Up. Both tracks shows the lead's remorse in letting a girl go, and on both occasions he's wanting her to return. The first where he expresses his desire for one more screw to see whether the two can try again, and the second where he persistently calls this woman up in the middle of the night just to see if she wants to talk to him. I will admit that Call You Up does have more of a narrative than Cherry Vimto, although I do wonder how he knows all the things that this woman's been dealing with despite showing no evidence that he's had contact with her before this evening. But I can't help but feel that there's no real conviction in the vocals to really draw me in. Personally, vocalist Chris Leonard's delivery works better on the lighter, poppier tracks than the confessional pieces. The only track where our lead comes off in any way sympathetic would be on the track Like a Fool, where his feelings for his other half are not being reciprocated, but he's going to call her bluff anyway and see whether she actually feels the way that he does. Whilst the lyrics do tend to leave more to be desired, the instrumentation and production is pretty solid, and this is where the album gets the large amount of appeal from. Whilst Really Wanna Call You is essentially our lead encouraging some girl to leave her current boyfriend in order to get with him, it's got solid guitar melodies and rhythms all throughout that gives the song some charm. The guitars have some punch to them on the opening Swings and Waterslides, and they work nicely with the percussion, bass and backing vocal shouts. The bass has a nice groove occurring on the track Go Outside, and again the guitars have a good rhythm too. Call You Up registers as the most chilled track on the album, the guitars and drums taking a more softer approach that enhances Leonard's vocals with the much slower delivery, and Boys That Sing once again shows the group's knack for rhythm and melody. Production wise, everything's very clean and placed. I would have liked it if the group had gone a little more heavier in their sound, if only for variance sake, but kept the vocals as they are for the large part of the album. When Leonard tries for a rougher edge, it doesn't end all that well. Take Get to Dancing for instance, easily the worst song on the album. His voice takes on a more gravelly sound and it doesn't settle well for me at all. Plus, the music is pretty boring. Overall, I think this is definitely going to go down as one of my more contentious reviews, since there's going to be a great deal of emotion involved when listening to my critiques, but I think what this album ultimately captures is untapped potential that unfortunately we're never going to see flourish, and we're never going to know what it could have become. Although with some lyrical issues, plus the instrumentation while sticking to the tried and tested indie formula, I do feel like that there are obviously more than one occasion where the guitar riffs do sound strikingly similar. There is this strong sense of charm and warmth that is definitely present on this project, and if you liked what you heard, I honestly don't blame you in the slightest. Hell, I like this album despite all the criticism I have, which is why I'm awarding it a 74 out of 100, but anything higher would be overrating the album at the end of the day.